case competitions, while there would be a lot of types of them, I would primarily structure them into two. One is a corporate case competition, and second is a college case competition, right? So corporate case competitions obviously have the foremost degree of importance, prestige in a corporate case competition. Uh, but those are also very, very challenging, and almost every MBA student does apply for it.
Hello and welcome to today's podcast by Skilled Sapiens, your go to resource for experiential learning, where our mission is to discover new opportunities, develop essential skills, and deploy your talent to make an everlasting decision. I am your host for today's podcast, Prakriti Jain. Today, we have with us Garv Mulchandani, who is currently pursuing his MBA from Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, Pune, and is currently serving as a summer intern in General Mills. Garv has actively participated in many of the case competitions and has achieved national runner up ranks in finance, marketing, and entrepreneurship. Welcome, Garv.
Thank you, Prakriti. And
How are you feeling right now?
it feels good that I'm getting an opportunity to share my experiences with your followers and with prospective MBA students and current MBA students as well. So I'll be happy to share whatever I've learned throughout my experience.
So, Garv, before diving right into the topic, I would like to know something more about you. So, can you share some of your journey?
Sure. So firstly, like getting into an MBA college itself was a very random split second decision for me. I was busy running my startup in Mumbai right out of college. And once I decided to not pursue that and I got a investor on board, I was like, okay, let's just go for an MBA, right? That's when my whole MBA journey started, and I had no clue what case competitions even are. It's just when I joined B school and then I got to know that there's a whole craze about competing, and there's cash prizes. There's so many reputed companies coming up. That's when I actually got interested in the whole idea of competing. And yeah, so I think that's how I started competing for case competitions. And it's been a good journey. It's very difficult. It's seen a lot of failures as well. So most of the quizzes you end up not clearing, and then the one or two you clear, you need to ensure that you really go to the end of it. Then so that's there. And apart from that, I'm just done in honors in BSc statistics. So I think that data element also does end up helping me in competing. So yep, I think that's a bit about me.
So let's start with a very basic questions, I guess, because most of our viewers are, upcoming MBA students, so they do not have
Okay,
any sort of idea regarding what are these case competitions. So
got
we
it.
would like to know that what are these case competitions? Are they organized by some college or some companies? What are the levels or stages do they have? So please shed some light on this.
Case competitions, while there would be a lot of types of them, I would primarily structure them into two. One is a corporate case competition, and second is a college case competition, right? So corporate case competitions obviously have the foremost degree of importance, prestige in a corporate case competition. Uh, but those are also very, very challenging, and almost every MBA student does apply for it and does compete for it. And most of them require teams. Most of them require some kind of a quiz at the initial level, maybe a quiz or an aptitude test, which at times is required by all the members of the team to be given. So that the whole structuring the team and getting the team right itself can take you 6 months in a new B school, because you don't really know who's who, right? So by the time you're actually understanding, okay, who should I really be a part of, which team should I really go ahead with, you're almost 6 months down, and most of the case competitions are already done. And on the flip side, when you talk about a college case competition, again, most of them do require teams. Some of them are individual as well. There also is it is a quiz round, which is relatively easier because the number of applications for a college case competition tend to reduce drastically. So I would say maybe if 100 people are applying for a corporate case comp, 5% will be applying for a college case comp. So I think that is the difference. So competing there is relatively easy, and it is a good training ground for you to actually go ahead and compete in the second year with for corporate case competitions. Because as a complete newbie to the whole B school environment, suddenly you're expected to win Flipkart, or you're suddenly expected to win an HUL line, which tends to be very difficult. So I think for a first year student, especially if they're coming in, I think it's a good idea to build their knowledge and build their skill set via competing with in college case competitions, and then gradually move on to corporate case competitions as well.
Okay, so as you have said that when you first entered your college, you were hearing a lot about these case competitions and all.
Right.
How your journey actually started, how you started, taking seriously these case competitions, because a lot of competitions comes and go and we do not actually, pay attention to them a lot and we do
Correct.
not take them seriously. So when you
Correct.
started taking them on a serious note.
Yeah. So this was, see, if you're in a B school, you're most likely there for a placement, right? And everybody knows in the current market or in any market how difficult it is to actually land a very good company and a very good package, right? So initially, this was the same with me. A few corporate case competitions happened, and a lot of people didn't take seriously. But then the one or two people who really took seriously and then got a PPI from that company, got an opportunity to actually go ahead much before the processes start of placements. That really struck a chord, and you're like, oh, it's really rewarding. Because sometimes when you join in as a student and a company is saying, oh, we are going to give 2 lakhs as cash prize and a PPI, you feel it's too good to be true. You feel, if I can even do this, or looking at the competition, especially when you're not from one of the top MBA colleges, you wonder if, oh, I can actually make it up top. Is the competition too much? But then when you see it, all it takes is one or two people from your campus to actually go ahead and do it, and then the whole college starts believing that, oh, this is something, if he or she could do it, we can also at least give it a shot. And then the whole system builds in. And luckily, me being from SIBM, so Symbiosis has a very good track record for in case competitions across the country. So one of my college, uh, on a year-to-year basis, is one of the top three competitors in case competitions, right? So we have that whole learning from our seniors as well. So seniors will tell you how important it is, but you'll still not take it seriously. But in the minute you see a batchmate actually go ahead and compete and get the recognition, you feel happy for them as well. And then you also feel a sense of motivation, internal motivation, that, okay, let's us also go ahead and try it out. So that's how it primarily starts. I think that's for everybody. And then there's, after one or two case comp victories, everybody in the batch gets excited, and then everybody will fail. Again, 95% people will fail, and then the peak drives down. So it's kind of like a bell curve. But then it's important that you actually stay interested after that hype has died down. So then you start winning actually. So, I'm not going to say to any aspirant out there that, oh, in the next 3 months itself of joining a B school, you'll end up winning Amazon. Very few. The probability of doing that is very few. But there are tons of competitions happening, and you don't need to win them all. You need to just succeed in a few, and quality over quantity is what I say. So you'll see a lot of people registering for 100 case comps, but you register for 5 6, and then you end up winning 1 2. That's ideally how you should go.
So that's very well said, that a
Hmm.
lot has come, but you have kept yourself motivated throughout your journey. So,
Correct.
as you have recently, achieved national levels as well. So,
Hmm.
how much time it took for you to be at that point, and what are your experiences and learnings and insights about your success?
Correct. So a lot of time. So honestly, if my college started in July, right? Sorry, June, July. My first victory was in January, right? That was also a runner-up in January. But even for that victory in January, we were preparing since November, because any case competition has multiple rounds. So you need to be very serious if you're going to compete in it. And luckily that was an internal college SIBM case competition. So, and therein again, we registered for finance, and I'm a marketing student, right? So I selected my team member very right, and he was someone who could really handle the whole so there were 3 rounds in it. Firstly, the quiz round, which we cleared, which is generally generic. So any quiz round will not ask you highly technical questions. They are generic stuff, and your speed really matters there. So after clearing the quiz round, there was a whole PPT round or submission round, which you don't really get to present, right? And one thing I realized was that my strength laid in presentation. So which is why in those 6 months, I really found a teammate who was very good with the numbers, who could actually make a very good pitch in Excel, right? And then the PPT and presentation aspect I took care of. And there was one person who was just handling all the deadlines and everything, right? So we structured the team around that way. And it took us 4 to 5 months to actually understand. Firstly, you need to evaluate, okay, someone might be good, but someone might not be interested as well. So you need to find someone who's good and interested and available, because it in the after the first 2 or 3 months, it kind of gets like, okay, one team has won, then those remain the same for throughout the year. So that's how we built it. Then my first victory happened on Jan 10th, I think, and it happened in such a way that the next day we were also qualified for another case competition. So then the momentum built up when we actually got qualified for 3 to 4 national finals. Then when we were presenting, and that's the first time I presented. So I love marketing and I love being out there. So I felt joy because the whole hard work was done by my teammate. I'll be very honest about that. And what happened there was when the question and answer rounds started coming in, his skill set was very in the Excel aspect, and I could really answer. And that's where I played in, and then we ended up winning. So then we realized, okay, this is how we should structure. And I had a lot of fun in the last round. But I was like, okay, to reach the last round, I need to do 2 months of hard work before. That's when I started actively taking part in more case competitions. And if you see, my first victory was in Jan. Then I had 3 victories in February and then another 2 in March. So then the momentum built up, and I'm just excited to go for second year and actually start competing in corporate ones now as well. Yeah.
So that's wonderful to hear, and
Mm.
I'm actually feeling very nice that you have,
Mm.
very well bifurcated your jobs when it comes to a team, and you have actually, has worked very hard on that team spirit thing, that how actually you can divide the work very efficiently and do
Right.
the best of your possibilities. So it is generally noticed that a lot of the case competitions, be it corporate, be it of any colleges, comes the first stages are generally the quiz rounds, or in some cases they do provide us with a small case study,
Brief.
and
Yeah.
they tell us to present our solutions in just a one slide PPT. So
Correct.
do you have any advices, or any tricks for clearing up the quizzes, or as we do a lot of research for any kind of
Mm.
case study, so how do you process the whole data and present in just one sheet, that only the important one
Correct.
that actually meant goes in there?
Okay, so I'll address both the questions. Firstly, if there's a quiz round, then your team becomes very, very important. Okay, because there's tons of knowledge out there, right? You don't know exactly how many 25 questions are going to come in. One other way is that because generally there's a time slot, like at least a 2 hour window, 3 hour window. So a lot of other you can actually have a friend of yours give the quiz before to get an estimate of exactly what is going to be asked or what kind of questions are going to be asked. And during the quiz, you need your teammates sitting right next to you, actually looking for answers or solving the sums. So that helps. Even in the quiz, there's generally now, let's say I am good with English, so my friend would be very good with numbers. And then apart from that, there would be someone with visual logical reasoning very well, right? So there again, that whole team play comes into play, and you need to actually make your team basis the rules on Unstop. So if you see, okay, this is the kind of question that Unstop is telling us that this case comp is going to ask, then you make the team. So for the quiz round, I think your team becomes super important. And with experience, you get a hang of how to actually answer what is. And sometimes you'll see questions being repeated as well through multiple competitions. You will definitely see questions being repeated, especially if you select a domain. So if I've selected marketing as a domain, so I see a lot of examples being repeated in a lot of case competitions. So knowledge keeps compounding as well. And apart from the quiz, when there's a one slider or a two slider, and this is also for round twos generally. So if you clear the quiz, you're expected to give a two slider or a three slider, and that's very annoying, right? Because you're sitting with all the creativity in your head. You want to do this motion graphic, you want to put this element, but how do you really do it in two slides?
Yes.
And how do you actually make it readable as well? I've seen a lot of people just put in boxes, 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 and data, and then they don't get selected. Because what happens is that, irrespective of whatever, if it's a corporate or a college or any other, even if you're interning, right, your insight is supposed to be one or two lines. Whatever data you've crunched, your recommendation or your insight from it should be one, two, or maybe three liners, right? So ideally it should have a logical flow of how you've looked at the problem, how, what data sources you've brought in, and what is your interpretation of that data, interpretation or insight, and what is your final solution or recommendation, right? So essentially you're playing with four things throughout. You have 50 slides or you have four slides, right? It is how you're looking at the problem, how you understood it. Second is what sources have you come up with to look at the data, which is generally data from internet. Third is how you've interpreted it, and fourth is what is a solution based it. So now if you see, if it's a one slider, two slider, you can easily compartmentalize. So most of the people, even when you're interning, your managers will be like, see, we are a company that's 100 years old, right? In 2 months, you're not going to change anything. We only look at how you're evaluating the problem, how you're approaching it. So if in that method, if your approach is right and basis your approach or recommendation is feasible, I think you will be called in for the next round.
So after we have understood how to actually ace the PPTs,
Yeah.
how do you prepare for the pitch? When final,
Hmm.
when you go in the finals, you actually have to deliver a whole pitch about your solutions. So how do you prepare that presentation?
So weirdly, I think the two case comms that I've won, the Masters Union CO Challenge and the runners up in Mercurius, both of them actually scrapped the presentation round. It was a spontaneous decision. Like, it was a surprise for us. It was a surprise where they wanted to check our spontaneity as marketers. So again, the pitch is, it's in your head, right? You've been working on it for 2 months, so you know what is to be said. So then you really don't have to prepare if you've done your heart and soul into it. So everything's there. What you actually need to filter out is the time management aspect, because you can't cover 2 months each and every data source that you've looked at in 2 months in a 10-minute presentation. So you need to really be cautious of time and highly specific about what really you want to mention in your speech. And again, practice between your teammates as well, because the judges do look at the team factor. So even if I'm a very good speaker, but if they see, okay, two other people are in my team and they are not speaking, right, it looks like, oh, it's a one man show. So that team factor also comes into play. So you need to coordinate with your team that who is covering what aspect. If there's any charisma that you can add, if you can make it a kind of a skit, so it adds more fun to the presentation. So that element, you get that room for creativity and innovation out there as well. So how I look at it is, what is the question first of all, right? What is the objective? It always comes back to that. What are the judges expecting? What is the criteria of evaluation? If you have that, then it's golden. You know exactly what points you need to cover. And second is that how creatively and innovatively can you really present it? Because when it's a presentation round, then the limit is not the number of slides, the limit is the presentation time. So you can actually have 100 slides if you can cover it in 10 minutes. So you have a lot of room for adding a lot of creativity in your presentation and your skit or your verbal script as well. So that is one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you a lot because, in a very short span of time, we have to engage our audience, especially the judges, in a very creative way so that they can, get
Right.
connected to the core idea of our solution. So that is something very important to address.
Right.
So as you have
And just one
mentioned,
thing I'd like to add.
yeah, sure.
So a lot of case comps that I've gone in. So data is important. Data is super important. A lot of people, clutter the slides with data, right? But unless there's not a real interpretation coming out of it, right? You can be like, oh, the cat, like let's say for an example, the entire category is at a 10 rupee price point, but I want to market it at 50 rupees, this product. So you need to actually bring out the fact that, okay, 5% of the market is a premium market, which is affordable. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people directly say, okay, I'm going to do it at 50. Then the natural question the judge will ask is, but everybody's at 10, right? How will you market at 50? But because the person has not brought out the fact that he's catering to a 5% market. So very important to not just clutter your slides with data, but actually bifurcate on how you're looking at the problem and how your solution is actually backed by the data. So sometimes, people just get confused. And on the other side, some people also just speak about the data. Like, you're not giving a research report, you're giving a solution. So that's a thin line of difference between a research report and a solution. And most of the people, especially freshers, what I've noticed is, when you're coming out of college directly, you tend to, oh, no, I need to clutter it. I need to show them that I've done all the work. Okay, you might have done all the work, but if the solution is not feasible, or if there's no real solution itself, then it's a no go for the yeah.
I definitely understand that we actually have this feeling that if we have done something, we have to project all of them in all of
Not
that in the
really.
PPT. Yeah, in general.
Yeah.
So as you have said that in one or two of your competitions, at the last minute, the whole the competition has changed. So this was very unexpected. So how you actually managed to do this to deal with that spontaneity?
Correct. So see, whenever it comes to spontaneity, right? I for a fact, I love spontaneous competitions because I mean, I know it's kind of unfair to someone who's really prepared and come sometimes, but it also at that for that competition element, it removes everything and it just keeps you as the individual right there as the competitor, right? And I think that is where your whole life comes into picture, and whatever you've learned, whatever you studied. So it could be a difference if that person has read newspaper for the last for every day of the past 1 year and you've not, then you're at a big disadvantage because that guy is sitting with a ton of knowledge, and it could be anything, right? So I'll give you an example. In Masters Union for the CO challenge, the final round was actually a crisis round where they gave us a crisis. They gave us a mock simulation that we are in a crisis, and they gave us 2 minutes to think about it. And the next 3 minutes we were pitching a solution to a judge. In the simulation, he was supposed to be the CEO of the company. Now, and everybody got a different crisis. So the only evaluation was how you've looked at it and what is the solution and how confident you are. And luckily that's where I don't know, it's just a spontaneous thing because I've kept reading throughout my life. I've done a startup, so I had a lot of perspectives, is what I'd say. So when it comes to spontaneity, I think the only way to prepare for spontaneity is to be very disciplined throughout your life and keep doing the basics right, and somehow it'll just work at the last minute.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, do you think that these case competitions has somewhere helped you in your development as a person or as a management student? And does it has some effects on your final placements or your profile?
See, about placements, I'm not very sure because that only a company HR would be able to say. Like, what are we looking at? As students, we also don't know what the companies are exactly looking at. But rough estimate, yeah, maybe it does help in placements. Maybe it is a good CV pointer. But I doubt that it would be a significant player because most of the companies do look at the general academics, general forte. But again, I wouldn't. I don't think I'm the right person to answer about that. If it helps in placements, yes. If you actually win a corporate case comp and then you get a pre-placement interview, then definitely. So if you win a corporate case comp, then definitely you get a good chance to work for that particular company. but I don't know if the winner of an Amazon case competition would get preferential placement in Asian Paints, right? I don't know about that. That only the companies would know. But apart from that, for my personal being, yes, definitely. I think being a solo startup founder was a lot about the lone wolf mentality that I can do everything, but you can't. My whole first learning has been that a team is crucial for success. So I think it's made me a lot more of a team player. Second, it's got me understood. It's made me understand the fact that, okay, how to present. Speaking is not enough. Your data points should come into order. How do you pitch a story around the data points? That's important. And how do you evaluate? Like, okay, you might think something is very cool, right? But in the overall context of things, it's just a 1 minute waste of time. So you eliminate that and you just focus on the meat of the project, which is the solution. So, and as students, we come up with a lot of creative ideas, but when we go to corporate is a relatively boring place than your student, right? So you have to speak a lot about the numbers. It's more about the content rather than the presentation, right? You can have the most boring presentation, but if your numbers make sense, you'll go ahead. And you can have the most fancy decorative presentation, and if your numbers don't match up, you're not going ahead, right? So I think that's a perspective I've got from case competitions, and I'm lucky I got it before I went into corporate. So I had a relatively good understanding, because even if you go for college case competitions, the judges are from the corporate arena. So yeah.
Well, that's very, very insightful. So, do you have any kind of advice for your juniors or upcoming MBA students who are aspiring to be in any management institute? And would you recommend them to take these competitions on a serious note?
So my only recommendation to anybody in an MBA college, first of all, apart from CaseCom academics, is like chill out, right? Everybody gets ultra competitive. Everybody's competing amongst themselves and all. I always say this: the future is not going to be about competition; it's going to be about collaboration, right? You see any of the good things coming up, they are coming up with partnerships, right? So build that mentality in college itself. You know that guy's placement is not going to affect your placement. It's not, right? Yes, there's going to be competition and all, but keep it healthy and chill out. Like, it's not the end of the world if that person has won a case comp, you've not. You will win yours. Maybe that person will not win the other case, next case comp. So that's it. Everybody, whatever I've heard, gets very competitive and starts comparing themselves as well. Like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that because you failed once. But that's why you're in a B school, right? Everybody in a B school has done wonders before joining the B school. Everybody comes up with, oh, I can win over the world, and then within a month, everybody's like, oh shit, where are we? Like, it's so tough, it's so challenging. But that's the part, right? That's why you signed up for a B school. That's why you're paying the fees to get challenged and come out of it stronger. So definitely, I'd say from a specific focus on case comps, go ahead and take part, right? Even if you don't pass the quiz around 10 times, you'll pass the 11th time, right? This happened with me when I was not clearing any case comp quiz of a corporate, and then I cleared Flipkart. I know the joy of clearing Flipkart quiz because it was sweet for me because it was a 10 case comp wait, right? Whereas someone started clearing case comps right from the first one. So it is about that. Your time will come. It's a 2 year journey. It's your journey. It's not a race that you're running. Um, and that's my only recommendation. And keep learning. So I have a folder in which I have all the presentations, all the feedback from all the judges over all the case comps I've done. And I actually factor that in even when I'm working now. So it does help. And it also boosts your confidence. So don't let your failure affect your confidence. But when you win, it'll definitely give you a boost up. So let that come in.
Well, that was very, very insightful of you. I have gained a lot from you, and I hope our viewers or upcoming MBA students would have learned a lot from you because your journey is very much inspiring. At the same time, it teaches a lot, and you have actually mentioned some of the very important key factors that actually affects and actually comes into the journey of an MBA student. So thank you so much for being here with us. And we loved your love to have a conversation with you. It was a very, very great experience.
Yeah, and just saying, mine is nothing great. Everybody in a B school is doing pretty great. Be it a college case com, corporate case com. I would say that my peers who won corporate case coms are way ahead of me right now. And even the people who are not competing, they're also doing pretty great. So if you're in a B school, if you're in a decent B school, congrats, you're already done with 90% of the good work. Right. So chill out, have fun to all the prospective students.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys. If you like this episode, please do like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell icon. And don't forget to leave a comment down below of your questions or your any thoughts. And until next time, keep striving for excellence.